This is the Unseen Podcast, Episode 1. I'm your host, Chris.
I'm your host, Shelby, and I'm interested in all things true crime, and I'm interested to see from the cop's perspective.
Right, and I'm a cop, so I've been a cop in a lot of different facets, starting with I was a corrections officer in a maximum security prison. I worked county jails as a deputy, and I've worked as a patrol cop for many years now. I've done rural patrol areas. I've done high crime areas, you name it. So that's pretty much what I'm going to be bringing to this podcast. And as far as the podcast goes, for this episode, it's going to be more of like a Q&A format where we're just going to kind of dive into, day-to-day life of being a cop.
Fun stuff.
And then for future episodes, we're going to go in all sorts of different areas in that subject matter. We're going to do some true crime stuff where we go into past cases, famous cases, cold cases, whatever, discuss that.
Awesome.
We'll do story time where,
Oh,
where we get into some funny stuff
Yes.
that, is going on the job. We'll do opinion pieces. We'll do special episodes where we discuss military things because, another thing, before I was a cop, I was also a paratrooper in the military for 5 years. You, if I'm not mistaken, were a military wife.
Right.
For how long?
6 years.
6
I
years.
think it was 6 years.
6 years, that sounds about right.
I think it was.
And for those that don't know, we are actually brother and sister. So
Oh, yeah, I'm the sister.
That's right.
Obviously.
That's right. Okay, so, let's get into it. What do you got for me?
Okay, so I wanted to know, how long have you been a police officer?
Oh, okay. That's a pretty easy one. We're starting off light.
Right.
So I've been a cop for about 8 years in one facet or another. I started off, I did,
Really?
yeah.
Been that long?
Yeah, so I started off in 2014 as a corrections officer in a maximum security prison.
Right.
When I was there, I also joined the Special Operations Response Team. And then after that, I worked as a deputy in a county jail for about a year before I moved. And then I went on patrol for 2 years with my previous department.
Right.
In kind of a rural setting.
Okay.
And then for the department I work for now, I've been on patrol for about 3 years, and I also spent about 6 months in the county jail there. So, all in all, it's been about 8 years being a
Can't
cop.
believe it's been that long.
I know,
That's
time flies when you're
crazy.
having fun, I got to tell you.
Oh my gosh. Okay. You would think I would have known the answer to that question.
No, I had to think about it, honestly.
Okay. Question number 2. What made you decide to become a cop?
It wasn't just one thing. I can tell you that, and really, I never thought about becoming a cop until after I got out of the military.
Right.
So when I got out of the military, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do, really. I thought maybe I would want to work on cars, kind of, do that for a little bit. I didn't like that.
Yeah.
I went to school for a little bit, and I really I didn't know what direction I wanted to take it in, but I knew what I was missing since getting out of the military was that really tight camaraderie that you
Okay,
have with
that
your
makes
coworkers
sense.
when you're in the Army.
Yeah.
You hear it all the time, whether you're part of it like you were as being a spouse or if you see it on TV or movies.
It's a different kind of environment.
Right, and you always hear people, oh, that's my brother, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
nobody's like, that's my friend or coworker. They're like, that's my brother, because that's how
Yeah.
tight you are in the military, and I miss that because when you re-enter the civilian world, you don't really have that anymore.
True.
You know what I mean? Other than with your actual brothers and sisters,
Yeah,
obviously.
but it's different still.
Right, and then, so that was one thing that kind of drew me to it. I was like, well, where can I get that again?
Okay.
And the most obvious answer was like, oh, law enforcement has that, that tight bond, that camaraderie.
Right.
And then I really thought about, okay, well, what does that job entail? Is that something that I want to do? Because it's not just going to be for that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then I was like, well, it also is something else that I've been missing since I got out of the military, which is having a job that has some real substance to it.
Yeah.
So like it's an important job.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not like, and not knocking anybody else's job. I'm just saying,
yes.
like, if you call in sick as a cashier at a 7-Eleven, it screws up the schedule, and I'm
Absolutely.
sure that kind of puts a kink in the manager's plans and everything. But not a whole lot of negativity is going to come from that. You know what I mean? Where
Yeah.
like somebody needs to be on patrol taking these calls 24/7, 365 days a year, no holidays or weekends. There's got to
Yeah.
be somebody out there patrolling.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, so it's something that's important that I can take pride in knowing that, hey, I'm out there making a difference.
Uh-huh.
I'm out there doing a job that has to get done. Rain
Right.
or shine, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? This has to get done by somebody.
Yeah.
And I like that. I like going to work knowing that this isn't monotonous.
Right.
It's
I can
not-
totally see that about you.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you're just like, you need to be like doing stuff all the time.
Yeah, I want something that's meaningful.
Yeah.
You know? And then the other thing is, like, I was never into being in, like, a building for a 9 to 5, a Monday through Friday. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I just couldn't. Any job that ever worked like that, I despised it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The greatest thing about being a cop, that really I didn't realize so much. I mean, I guessed it would be like this, but it wasn't until I was in it that I realized that every day is a new day. Meaning,
Yeah.
like, I have no idea
What's gonna happen?
what's
today?
gonna happen today. You know what I mean? When
They
I
don't repeat themselves.
right when I punch in and I log on in that patrol car and I go 10-8, which is the 10 code for in service, meaning
Yeah.
like I'm ready to take calls. Right.
Okay.
When I do that, I have no idea
gonna
what's in
happen?
store for the next 12 hours for me.
Oh, that's so
You
weird.
know.
As a total polar opposite, that would freak me out.
That's what I love about it.
I'm like, no, thank you. I would be so freaked out.
See, because I would defeat myself
Yeah.
going into a 9 to 5 job, just thinking already in the beginning, like, oh, I know exactly what today holds, and I'm already hating it. Like,
I mean, I
You
can
know?
see that, yeah. But I
So-
mean, like, I like the knowing what's going to happen part too.
right. So I actually like the opposite, because now it doesn't always work out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Some days are shitty days.
Obviously.
You know, and those aren't good days. But some days are good days, some days are bad days. It is what it is. But it's exciting to know when I go in there and I log on,
You just don't know.
anything could happen.
Yeah.
Anything could happen today. I have no idea. And minute by minute, you don't know what's going to happen. You know what I mean?
Right,
It's not
right.
like when you're a few hours into it, you're like, oh, I kind of get the gist of this day. No, because I've had days where for the first 6 hours, there was nothing.
Uh-huh.
It was dead.
Okay.
And I'm just like, oh, this is
You're
a boring
bored?
shift. And then all of a sudden, shit just hit the fan for
And
the
it's
last 6
crazy.
hours. You know what I mean?
Oh,
Just one
no.
after the other, and it's all crazy shit.
Yeah.
You never know. And then I've had, the total opposite, where it starts off crazy and then dies down. I've had total crazy shifts for 12 hours. I've had dead shifts for 12 hours.
I
It's
can't
like,
imagine 12 hours straight of just chaos.
it takes some getting used to, for sure.
That sounds
It
like
does.
it would be like hard to do.
It takes some getting used to, for sure. And there's still days, even though I've been doing it for years, 12-hour shifts,
Right.
where I'm like, oh my God, 12 hours is so long.
It's so long.
But you get used to it for most of the days, especially the busier days.
It goes faster.
It goes way faster.
Yeah.
Before you know it, it's like, oh,
It's over.
I got to go fuel this car up and, switch it out with the next person coming on. You know what I mean?
Right.
So that I think that's the best way I could
Describe why.
reason why I wanted to become
yeah,
a cop, or what drew
and-
me to it.
Law enforcement's actually in our family too, so
It is. So
yeah.
both of our grandparents were retired deputy sheriffs.
so I mean,
So.
it kind of makes sense too on that part.
Yeah, and really, it was our grandmother that kind of, put it in my head, even while I was in the military still, that
Yeah.
I should be a cop. And I told her many times, like, I'm not
No,
really interested in it.
not
You know what
into
I
that.
mean? I kind of, I thought at the time, because I joined the military when I was super young. I joined it when I was 18,
Oh yeah.
Uh-huh.
Uh-huh.
And so from 18 to 23, when I got out, it was nothing but rigid structure,
Wow.
schedules, hard work, and I kind of wanted a break from that. And
Yeah.
when people told me I should be a cop, I'm like, well, that's just like going back in the military. I kind of want a
Right.
break.
That
you know
makes
what I mean?
sense. Yeah.
Yeah, but then after, I think
So
it was
long.
about 2-year period
Yeah.
between getting out of the Army and becoming a cop. I had that break. I
Right.
did some school. I did some other jobs, things like that. And then I realized, I was like, you know what? I miss that stuff.
Yeah.
I
It's-
do.
Do you feel like it's as structured as the military?
In some ways, yes. In some ways, no.
Yeah.
So, the military, you're up at the crack of dawn every day, and you're starting your day with physical training, PT,
Ugh.
right? Every day before the
Gross.
sun comes up. You don't do that as a cop. You don't start your day with PT unless you do it on your own. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're not going into a unit and doing group PT with each other.
Yeah.
So I guess you would say it's less structured in that manner, but the day-to-day standard for how you conduct yourself on or off duty
Uh-huh.
is much higher.
Right.
So when you're in the military, at least from my experience, I was in, I got out in 2011, so that gives you an idea how long ago I
Yeah.
was in. And things were different back
Oh.
then as they are now.
So weird.
Right, but when I was in, they had a high standard to how to conduct yourself, but they had a lot of wiggle room as far as like, hey, these guys have been gone to combat for the last year and a half, and they're blowing off some steam, so
Just
they would
them.
let some things kind of go under the radar and forgive a lot.
Yeah.
Whereas when you're a cop, it's very hard to be forgiven for any kind of,
Misstep.
bad conduct
Yeah.
on or off duty. They expect you
Absolutely.
to,
I mean,
they
'cause you're,
hold
like,
you
an
to that.
example in a public figure in
Exactly.
some ways.
They hold you to that higher standard because you're entrusted
Yes.
by the public with all of that responsibility.
Absolutely makes
You know what I
sense.
mean? So in that regard, I would say it's more structured than the military.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on. What about your craziest case so far?
Craziest case. That's a tough one. It's only tough because I have to pick one.
There's
right?
so many.
Like, yeah. There's like 20 that come to mind where I'm like, oh, this will blow your mind. But
What about like favorite case?
okay, so there was one. I was I was training on patrol. So when you first go to patrol from the jail, you go to what's called FTO, the Field Training Program.
Okay, yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, so you ride with a field training officer.
Okay.
For months, and
It's that long?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was only like a week.
No. It was about. I think for us it was about 4 months.
Okay.
And they basically critique every single thing that you do every minute of the day for 4 months.
Oh, sounds so fun.
And you have to. It's not. It's horrible.
I know.
And you have to pass it in order to go on patrol by yourself and do the job. Because if you don't pass it, they send you back to the jail.
Right. Okay.
Okay. So
You don't want to be back there, huh?
No. Oh
Nobody
my
likes
God.
jail.
Out of all the assignments I've done as a cop, the worst is corrections. So much props to all the corrections officers out there because I've done it at the state prison level and the county jail level, and no thank you.
No, thank you.
I'm good. I did my time there. So to those of you that do, your 20, 30 years as a corrections officer somewhere, hey, man,
I
much
can't
props.
imagine doing that, like working in prisons.
It's definitely not for everybody.
Yeah.
It has a very high attrition rate as far as people quitting and things like that. You know what I mean?
Anyway, sorry.
No, it's okay. So yeah, I was on training. I was a couple months in, and we got a call where basically this woman's grandmother had texted 911. So
you can text
yeah,
911?
right. So for those of you that don't know, if you're ever in a situation where you need to call 911, but you can't be like caught on the phone, you can text 911.
I did not know that. I'm still gonna do that.
Yeah.
I mean,
well,
like, if
I
I'm in
hope you
trouble-
don't have to do that.
If I'm in trouble, not like just for fun. One day.
Like, don't. It's
No.
not. It's not an experiment. Don't do that.
No. I promise. Only if I need to.
No. So this lady's grandmother texted 911.
Okay.
Basically saying, "Hey, my daughter's in some sort of domestic dispute with her boyfriend
Oh no.
in our area." Okay.
Right.
And she's saying that he won't let her leave. Okay. So a lot of times when we get 90% of the time when we get calls, we get partial information, inaccurate information. It's so hard to piece together what's actually going on from the information that we get.
Yeah.
I
mean, it's chaotic. So.
Right. So that's basically all the information we got originally. Was
okay. There's
third-hand information. There's a domestic dispute where this lady can't leave.
Okay.
And she's with her boyfriend.
All right.
Okay. And then on the way, we get an update that now the boyfriend has a gun and he's holding her hostage and won't let her leave. And he's threatening to shoot her, right? Now, that sounds very serious.
It does.
It does. However, I can't tell you how many bogus calls we get like that.
Oh, really?
Absolutely.
All the time?
All the time.
Oh, wow. Okay.
All the time.
Seems like such a crazy thing to just like
It's extremely
say.
common for people, either the reporting party who's placing the call or a miscommunication between them and dispatch or whatever it is.
Yeah.
We'll get this heightened information of, something that's super serious like that. And then we get there and it's nothing like that.
Oh, okay.
And at this point, I'm new on patrol, but at the same time, I've responded to hundreds of calls at that time.
Okay.
Because I worked in a really, really busy area at the time.
Okay.
So, we're thinking, yeah, I'm sure it's probably not that.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's still a serious situation that we need
Right.
to go handle, but it's probably not a hostage situation.
Right.
Right?
Okay.
But, so we're debating, should we just go up to the door and handle that, or should we call the SWAT team, or, because protocol would be for a barricaded suspect to call a SWAT team.
Okay.
And then basically we would just, secure the perimeter and wait for them to show up, try
And then they
negotiating,
handle
do
it?
their thing,
Okay.
But, this is third-hand party information.
Right.
The grandmother isn't there,
Okay.
and she's the one giving the information. So we're like, well, how do you know? And she's saying, well, my granddaughter is texting me the information, and I'm telling 911. And I'm like, okay.
Okay.
So we play the safe bet. We alert SWAT.
Oh,
Okay,
goodness,
and then they
okay.
meet us a couple blocks down from the house.
Man, I'm so nervous that nothing's gonna happen and like everybody got
No.
called for no reason.
No.
Okay.
So we did the safe bet. We call SWAT. We meet them a couple blocks down from the house. We kind of brief them with what we got.
Okay.
We come up with a plan because even they're not sure if this is bogus or if it's legit or not. So here's what we're gonna do to find out, right?
Okay.
We're all gonna roll up to the house together. The patrol cops. We're
And SWAT?
gonna go. Yeah.
Okay.
The patrol cops are gonna kind of secure the perimeter. Pretty close to the house.
Yeah.
The SWAT guys are gonna use the PA system to kind of call the people out of the house. And if they come out, then the patrol guys will go and, get with them, question them, handle the call.
Okay.
If they don't come out, then
They go in.
No, then
No?
then we know it's more of a serious situation.
Oh, so
that
then
it's
you
probably
just
more
make
legit.
us
If
a
they're not
plan
coming
B?
out, now SWAT is probably going to take over this call.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Okay.
So we roll up. The house is in the middle of the desert kind of area. So there's no cover to get behind anywhere.
Right.
So we're just out in the open. And, the information on the call is that this person has a gun.
Oh yeah.
Well, we automatically see that they have a bunch of surveillance cameras all over the property, and it's surrounded by chain link fence.
That
So
sounds
these
bad.
are automatic problems.
Red
as soon
flag.
as we get there,
Red flag. Red flag.
they try to call them out on the PA, no response.
Okay.
So they're like, "All right, guys, let's back this up. Let's set up a hard perimeter. Let's get some cover. Let's close down these roads. Let's try to make contact through the phone."
Oh my gosh. Okay.
So we do that. They finally contact him, and it's legit. Okay,
Oh,
this
no,
dude has
really?
this dude has his girlfriend hostage at gunpoint inside the house. He's threatening that if anybody approaches that fence line or tries to breach it or tries to come to the house, that he'll kill her.
Poor thing.
Okay, and he has cameras everywhere, so there's no
So
sneaking
he
up
can see,
on
yeah,
it.
he can see you guys.
Right.
Okay.
And it was verified that those cameras work because he basically described where everybody was over the
Oh,
phone.
no.
He's like,
Okay.
"Yeah, I see you guys over here and over here and over here." So, now it's a situation. It's a
serious.
very serious situation,
Oh,
We got to
no.
close down
Okay.
all these roads. We got to set up this perimeter. The negotiator from SWAT starts, trying to work his magic, trying to talk the guy out,
Right.
talk him down. At one point, actually, keep in mind, I'm a new guy still, right?
Yeah. How long would you say you were like?
I'd say I was 2 months into field training on patrol.
Oh gosh.
Okay, so I'm about
Yeah.
halfway through my FTO program. Okay,
And you're at this like super serious, like
Right.
crazy. Okay.
and so for my department, we always have been and always will be extremely short-staffed. Okay,
Yeah. I'm sure that's
Um,
really common with.
it
police.
is.
Yeah.
It's very common. So me still being under training, they need people to lock down this huge perimeter because the fence makes it a really large perimeter.
Right.
So my field training officer is like, "Hey man, you need to go out on your own and go lock down that road and make sure nobody goes in or out on that road." He's like, "You're going to be on your own, so just if you need anything, hit me up on the radio." I'm like, "Okay."
Oh gosh.
I'm like, "All right." And I get there and I see a vehicle right there at the intersection of the road where I'm parking. There's a house, a singular house with a
Right.
driveway leading to the road.
Okay.
And there's a car in that driveway.
Okay.
And I can see there's people in it, but at this time it's starting to get dark.
Okay.
And I can't see who the people are. And then I see the car start to move,
Gosh. Is
like
it the
toward
grandma?
no, towards the road, right?
Okay.
So I step out of my patrol car and I'm like, "Hey, stop! What are you doing? You can't see there's something going on here." And I look closer, and it's the SWAT guys in an unmarked vehicle, and they're like, "Get out of the way,
Yeah, they're
new
like,
guy!"
"Hey," yeah.
Yeah. So I'm like,
Okay.
"Oh shit! I already messed up," So it was a standoff for all night. I mean,
really?
all night. It ended at around 2 when
Gosh,
they
did she get
finally
shot?
had to force entry into the home because all negotiation efforts failed. I mean, they tried
Oh,
negotiating with
no.
this guy for probably 6 hours.
What was his motive?
They'd gotten into a
Was he
fight
just
about
mad
their
at her?
relationship of some sort. This was years ago, so
It's
I don't
hard
remember
to
every
all the
detail.
Yeah.
But it was a domestic thing.
Oh.
And this dude snapped and he had a gun.
Did he actually shoot her?
So when they breached, they
Yeah,
made
yeah.
forceful entry. He did try to shoot her. She survived.
Oh, thank God.
And then, unfortunately, it didn't go as smooth as possible because of his actions.
Yeah, because
right.
he was
So
trying to shoot
he's
somebody.
trying to, he's putting other people's lives at risk by firing his gun at a hostage. So, they had
It
to do what
didn't
they
end
had to
well
do,
for
and
him.
he didn't make it out. You know what I mean? But
Yes.
the woman actually survived. And
That's
so,
good.
yeah, I
Wow.
just remember that because I was new and they put me out there on my own
That's crazy.
and it lasted forever. Like I was supposed to get off work probably an hour into this thing and it lasted all night.
Oh
So
my
I was
gosh.
like dog shit tired by the end of it, you know
Oh
what I
my
mean?
goodness.
But
And
they
then
did
they're like, get back on the road.
right. They did a fantastic job with it. They literally tried every single avenue that they possibly could to
everybody out?
diffuse the situation, you know what I
Just
mean?
didn't work.
No. I mean, some people you just cannot reason with.
Yeah.
They're there to do what they're going to do and there's nothing you can say or do to talk them out of it.
Right.
You know. So that's just one that sticks out of my mind. There's
I mean, that's a really cool, or not cool,
No,
but
but
like interesting
right,
case, obviously.
right. Yeah, there's a million that stick out in my head. There was another one where this was after I was off training. I was on my own, and we got a call for a dead body.
Oh no.
So my partner gets there way before I do because it's way off in the middle of nowhere.
And he was just closer or something?
Right. Yeah, he was closer, but I was on my way
Yeah.
to just kind of give him a backup.
Sure.
You know what I mean? And I got there probably about 45 minutes after he did.
Uh-huh.
So he's been there for 45 minutes.
With a dead person?
Yeah.
Just
So
hanging out?
it's a long process
my
when
goodness.
you have a dead body call. You have to notify the coroner. You have
Yeah.
to find out that person's medical history, see if there's any signs of foul play. You know, you got to wait for the coroner to get back to you. You got to make
Ugh.
arrangements for transport of the body or
Right.
what's going to happen with that. You know what I mean? It's a long process.
Do they give you any information up front about, like, when they say anything about it?
It depends.
Like, when you get the call about
I mean,
the
it
dead
depends
body
who
or anything?
discovered the dead body.
Right.
You know what I mean? If it's a family member and they're like, hey, you know, this person's 97, you know, it looks like they're in their bed
yeah,
and they're
they
not
just-
breathing,
they
you know.
just, died.
But then there's some people that just stumble across one. They're like, I don't know. It was just a dead guy. You know what I
gosh.
mean?
That's one of my biggest fears in life.
Just stumbling across
I
one.
don't want to see a dead person, like, just randomly, but I feel like I kind of seek it out at the same time, even though I don't want to find one.
I don't think you
I'm
want to
like,
find one.
I don't want to.
They're
I
not
know
pleasant.
I don't want to, but I know but like when I see like random trash bags on the side of the road, I'm like, is there a dead body in there?
I wouldn't go investigate
I
that
will,
if I was
won't
you.
because I don't want to know. But I was thinking, I'm like, I wonder if there's a dead body over there.
I
I don't want to see one.
have yet to respond to a dead body call where they were in a trash bag.
Really?
No,
Okay.
never.
It always sounds like
Right,
it's like
no.
that, you know.
Well, okay, so I get there 45 minutes after my partner's already been on scene.
Right.
Okay, and I see this large guy who's naked on the living room floor,
Ooh.
but his like upper legs and genitals are covered with like a towel.
Okay.
Okay, and the report is that he overdosed on methamphetamine.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
The coroner gets there because luckily where I worked at the time, we actually had a resident coroner at the station. So
You know, I've heard that that's not always the case.
That's
so sometimes you have to wait hours.
yeah, 9 times out of 10, that's not the case.
Yeah.
As far as I know, that station that I worked at for my department, my current department, is the only station that had a resident coroner.
Oh wow. Okay.
So he got there pretty quick. He got there probably 10 minutes after I did.
Oh nice.
And so he's checking out the body, and he pulls the towel off, and he's got just lacerations all over his upper legs.
Oh no.
And we're like, what the hell? You know, we're like, okay, this is
Really
probably a
weird.
crime scene now. This is no longer just an overdose. Like, this looks like foul play.
Because yeah.
He's got fresh lacerations all over his legs, like 20 of them,
Wow.
right? And
But nowhere else?
no. And my partner didn't know because
It was covered.
it was covered, and he didn't
Ah.
take the towel off until the coroner got
Well,
there.
because you're not supposed to, right?
Well, you can, for sure. It's your job, you know, when you get on scene to kind of investigate. So we start going through the house, and, you know, we're just double-checking everything. You know, is there blood spatter somewhere? Is there a weapon somewhere? Something like that. Keep in mind, at this point, we've probably been there for about an hour and 15 minutes,
Okay.
okay?
Yeah.
Go outside. There's a person in the driveway underneath a boat covered in a blanket hiding. So we you know,
What? They've been there that whole time?
they've been there the whole time.
Why didn't they leave? I'm sorry. I'm not trying to advocate
I know.
for it, but like, what the heck?
And so, you know, we're like, what the hell? We pull him out, we cuff him up, put him in the car. We're like, what are you doing here, man?
Yeah.
You know?
Super suspicious.
Yeah, so it's this crazy case. Well, long story short, turns out there's a big house party there. Everybody's doing dope.
Okay.
The dead guy went into the bathroom. He shot up a bunch of meth.
Right.
He starts overdosing and then falls to the ground. But because he's a real big guy, there's like a really loud thud,
Right.
which makes the people in the in the other parts of the house, be like, what the hell was that? They go in the bathroom, they see him, they drag him out into the living room, which is where we found him, and they're trying to kind of, in the dumbest way possible, snap him too. So they start.
So they're cutting him?
Not cutting him. They're hitting him with like a coat hanger on his legs, because they're thinking, we don't want to hit him in the face. We don't, you know what I mean? Like, we just want him to feel it to snap him out of it. And it's a coat hanger. How much damage could it cause?
Apparently more than you think.
Right. I never thought a coat hanger could do that.
Oh my gosh.
Honestly.
It was like a wire one?
And then it was like, the metal one that you can kind of bend and shape, that you just hang clothes on. But they'd they'd bent it.
Yeah.
They'd bent it into kind of like a rod type deal, and they were hitting him on the legs with it to try to bring him out of it.
Oh my god.
And then they left because
they were afraid?
Most of them were afraid, but 2 of them were on parole.
Oh, okay.
And they're like, we can't have this, you know what I mean? So they left. We found them later. We questioned them, and, it was an overdose.
So it was
things like that. But that's one of those crazy things where you're like, what the hell,
What is, that's the first thing in your brain? I guess, but everybody was high, right?
Yeah.
So I was like,
and, they all have criminal
whipping him
history
with a metal
involving
rod.
drugs and things like that. So none of them want to be there when the cops get there to investigate an overdose.
Did
You know
they
what I
get
mean?
him naked, or was he just naked already?
I don't remember, honestly.
Yeah.
It was a long time ago, and I don't remember how he ended up naked. That's a good question. I don't
it's
remember.
not funny because a person died.
No, but it was one of those odd things, especially with the guy hiding under the boat in the driveway for an hour and a half, like.
Well, there was probably plenty of opportunity for him to leave too, right? Or was it were you guys like outside?
It was
and
kind of in a cul-de-sac area with a kind of drop off of a hill. So he would have had to
Not a lot of
walk
places
right
to
past
go.
us, basically, to get out of there. And I'd already pretty much taped off the whole area because we're thinking we might have a murder. So I locked it down like a legit crime scene, things like
Oh my
that. So it would have been pretty hard for him to just leave unnoticed. But I don't know what's going through his head. I can tell you if that was me, I would have just came out and been like, hey, guys,
What about
I was at this party,
inside
but,
the boat with the blanket over you?
What?
Like, maybe inside the boat, though.
Yeah, I don't
Would
know.
have been more.
Yeah, it would have probably a better
more
hiding place.
discreet, right?
Probably, yeah. We barely noticed him. It was just because there was like part of his shoe sticking out from the blanket underneath the boat, and it was like, is that a person? And then we were like,
gosh.
that's a person.
Did they try to run away?
No,
Oh, okay.
no.
Whatever. Okay. Next question. Okay, so if you could give one piece of advice to someone thinking of joining or just starting, what advice would you give?
If it was somebody who was
You're
thinking,
like, don't do it.
yeah,
Just
if it was somebody who was thinking of joining, I would tell them not to.
Really? Why?
It's just, man, it's a tougher job than anybody could ever tell you.
Yeah.
It's a taxing job. It's not just physically, but mentally.
Okay.
Pretty much both equally.
I could imagine.
It's gonna destroy your body physically. You never know how you'll react to certain things mentally. Like,
yeah.
I
can't imagine. It would be pretty hard, right?
Right, and I had a pretty good idea that I was mentally strong enough to handle the situations I'd be in just because of my time in the Army. So I was like, a lot of things I can, keep at work. Yeah, you know what I mean? Where it's like, it's not going to bother me outside of work.
Absolutely.
I already knew that I had that mentality, but most people don't have that advantage, and they're not going to know until they're in it.
And then it's going to be too much.
Right.
Yeah.
And even if you quit after that, you're still stuck with those things.
Right.
It's long hours, it's aside from 12-hour shifts. If something happens on, hour 11 with
You still have to
59 minutes
stay.
and there's 1 minute left in your shift and something crazy happens,
and then you have
you're
to call
staying.
the SWAT team in.
Yeah, you're staying. And sometimes you're staying, 6 hours plus, and then you go home, sleep for 4 hours, you come back, go on shift again for 12 hours.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
So it's
Other
really
times,
physically demanding.
right. And because almost every department these days is so short-staffed, you're going to get called in all the time to do overtime.
Yeah.
Physically demanding. You're going to be running, jumping, fighting combative people, carrying a lot of heavy weight. It's just pretty much the entirety of the job. We can sit here and tell people, the pros and cons of it, but you can't really have it translate accurately until you do it. And at that point, it's usually too late, you know what I mean, for you to realize that, hey, I'm not cut out for this.
Absolutely.
So most people I would probably discourage from joining. If somebody,
I was shocked that you said that.
if somebody had already joined and they're just starting out, I think my best advice to them would be your number one priority should be officer safety. Okay, so, it's real easy to get into like the macho attitude of like, oh, I can handle this by myself. I'm a veteran cop. Like, I've dealt with way worse stuff, blah, blah, blah.
Okay.
But take the time, take your time, get a backup, do the proper officer safety thing, because at the end of the day, it's not worth your safety.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, whether that person goes to jail or not is not worth you getting seriously injured or killed.
Okay.
It's just not worth it. You'll catch them another day doing something else.
Okay.
You know what I mean? It's just not worth it. Take the extra precautions. Take your time. Do it right.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And
that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, that, and I would definitely tell people, don't take cases personal. It's really hard to not take some cases personal as far as like, well, maybe not personal, but to want to see the end result of it.
Okay.
You understand what I'm saying? So like,
if somebody else has to take over,
you work, like you work this crazy case that's just a cluster, right? And you were able to piece it together.
Okay.
And you were able to take, something out of nothing and just work it and pinpoint a suspect and find where they're at and do all this. And then, at the end of the day, it gets sent to the district attorney's office and they give them probation for a serious crime and no jail time. And people get upset, the cops that put in all that time and work, and they had to interact with the victim who was seriously affected by the crime and things like that. And then this person basically gets off with a slap on the wrist, and, it's personal in that aspect.
Absolutely.
And I would say, don't. Your job is to respond to those calls and complete that investigation as thoroughly as you can.
Right.
After that, it's out of your hands. What the district attorney, judges, or juries decide to do after that is on them. You did your job the way you were supposed to do it.
Right.
After that, let it go.
Oh, man.
Let it go, because otherwise
I would never be able to do that.
It'll eat at you, and you'll become bitter.
Right.
I see a lot of cops that just become so bitter because they see these lifelong career criminals who victimize people time and time again just go in and out of jail with slaps on the wrist, and they get super bitter about it.
Really.
And, I've gotten super bitter about it sometimes.
Absolutely.
Where I'm like, how many people are you going to let this person victimize?
Right. I mean, I've even listened to stories where I'm sitting here going like, why is this guy not in prison?
Right.
You know what I mean? And it's just like, oh, well, he went to prison for 6 months and got 18 months probation. And you're like, he raped somebody. Like, what is happening?
And, you'll get super upset because you put in all that work.
Yeah.
I put in hours and hours and hours of really hard work to bring it to this point, and you guys just let him go. And it's like, hey, man, you need to let it go.
Man.
Just let it go. You won't be able to every time. Nobody's perfect. But as often as you can, I would say to somebody new, I'm like, do your job. Let other people worry about what happens after that.
It's true.
Right?
I see what you mean. Absolutely.
And I think the last piece of advice I would give to somebody new is your family's more important than the job.
Oh, that's sweet.
It is, because at the end of the day, you put in 30 years, work your ass off, you're super cop out there, you did everything right for 30 years, you put in the time, you retire with honors.
And then
at 30 years and 2 days, nobody in that department is going to give a shit anymore about your 30 years. Okay, they're going to go back, they're going to go 10-8 themselves, they're going to go start responding to calls again, they're going to move on with their life.
Yeah.
The department, and it's not a knock against the department, okay? It's how the world works.
It's just how it works. Yeah,
right.
Absolutely.
This is an important job. It doesn't revolve around you.
Right.
So with that in mind, you shouldn't revolve your life around the job. You should do your job good. You should do it to the best of your ability. But don't make it your life.
Yeah.
Don't make it your life. Your
I
family.
feel like that's good advice for anybody,
right.
Really.
Your family is the one that's going to be there after your 30 years, for your next 30 years.
That makes sense.
You know what I mean? Or they're not going to be because you totally ignored them for 30 years.
On your job, yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
So I would say that would probably be the best advice I could give someone who's just starting.
Okay. So since we were talking about, people kind of, I guess, getting away with things.
Sure.
In a sense.
Yeah.
I have a question about your feelings about how people get convicted for murder versus attempted murder.
Okay. Okay, so
because I feel like it's a little bit weird that this person's intent was still to kill you,
Mm-hmm.
and they still like only get a smaller sentence because the person just didn't die.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So I guess to explain this one, I'd have to explain California's sentencing guidelines for murder and attempted murder.
Okay.
Okay. Now, granted, this is a little bit beyond my purview because it's not up to me,
Right.
the sentencing for criminals, right?
Absolutely.
That's the district attorney who's going to make a recommendation for sentencing.
Mm-hmm.
That's the judge who's ultimately going to decide sentencing and things like that, right?
Absolutely.
But how I've understood it through my experience is, so there's not blanket murder. Okay, there's first degree, there's second degree, there's capital murder, there's felony murder. Okay, so first degree murder would be anything premeditated.
Right.
Okay, like this was something that you thought out, you planned it,
Mm-hmm.
you went to do this. Okay.
Like you had a purpose and that was it.
Yeah, it wasn't just something that happened spur of the moment.
Yeah.
Okay, you went to go kill somebody.
Right.
And they died.
Second degree is kind of
Okay.
like
Second
when you
degree,
snap.
right? It would kind of be like a spur of the moment thing, and you killed somebody.
Yeah.
Okay. Felony murder would be somebody was killed in the commission of a felony, like a robbery.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
See what you mean.
Right. So something like that could be something like two people go to commit a robbery.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. On one person. That one person in self-defense draws their own gun and shoots one of the perpetrators.
Okay.
That person dies.
Okay.
Okay. That victim would be clear in self-defense. Okay. The perpetrator that lived could be charged with his partner's murder
Oh,
because somebody was killed in the commission of a felony that he was committing.
That's really interesting. Okay.
Okay. So that's felony murder.
Gotcha.
Okay. So attempted murder, same business. Okay. So there's first degree attempted murder, second degree attempted murder.
Gotcha.
Okay? So first degree attempted murder has a sentencing guideline of life in prison.
Does it?
It does for first degree murder. Okay. It's not a mandatory. That's not the minimum. Okay. But that would be like the maximum sentence for attempted first degree murder.
Okay.
Okay. Now, when you see people get these really light sentences for attempted murder is when we're talking about second degree.
Mm.
Okay. So the minimum sentencing guideline for second degree attempted murder would be 5 years. And then it goes up to 7
Gross.
and then 9 years, things like that. Now, murder for, all different factors that I just
They all have
explained
different sentencing
could be
too.
anything from second degree murder carries like a 15 to life.
Okay.
First degree carries 25 to life. Capital murder, life without parole, or capital punishment, meaning the death penalty.
Okay.
So that's kind of how the sentencing goes when you compare murder to attempted murder. It all
Right.
depends on the circumstances. It depends on if it's first degree or second degree, premeditated, spur of the moment type thing.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if we're talking first degree attempted murder, you're looking at pretty much the same sentence as murder.
Oh man.
Okay. Now, second degree has a lot more leeway starting with 5 years.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Depending on the circumstances of the case.
Right.
So, the state of California, right or wrong, not up to me, they believe that in a second degree attempted murder where the person didn't actually die, there should be more leeway because the person didn't actually die and it wasn't planned.
Ugh. I've seen so many though.
Right.
Where they end up getting out and killing people again.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
And you're just sitting
Repeat
there going,
offenders
like,
is a very common thing.
I don't know if it feels like second degree at that point. It seems like
Right.
that guy really just.
Oh, yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong.
Guy or girl, sorry.
Right. Don't get me wrong. Mistakes are definitely made.
Yeah, I mean, I know it's not. It's just to me, I always think it's crazy. I'm like,
Right.
they still wanted to murder that person.
Right. I agree.
That was still in them
Right.
as a human being, which I
Right.
think is just a really crazy thing.
No, I agree. I mean, if you're asking my opinion on it, I would say 5 years would be too light for attempted murder in any circumstance.
I agree, yeah.
And for those of you that would think that, like, okay, well, what if it was an accident? Well, that's not attempted murder. Now you're
That would
looking
be
into manslaughter, right?
Right? That's what I thought.
And that should have a more
lighter
leeway
sentence.
for their sentencing guidelines. You know what I
Right.
mean? But for attempted murder, that means your intent was to
murder
kill that
somebody,
person,
yes.
and you took a step to complete that intent.
Which is crazy.
That's what the elements of that crime are. So your intent was to kill the person,
Right.
and you took a step in the direction to commit that intent.
Ugh.
Okay, so in
Gross.
my mind, I'm thinking if you intend to kill somebody and then tried to do it, you deserve more than 5 years regardless of the circumstance. But
It doesn't always happen that way.
I don't get to make that call.
It's true. I see what you mean.
It is what it is. And different states are different. You know, I'm just talking about California.
Right. Okay. Well, let's see. Here we are. Okay, how do you feel about the death penalty? Do you have a stance on it?
Sure, yeah. I'm for the death penalty for a few different reasons.
Okay.
For one, I believe there's some truly horrendous, terrible people out there that are way beyond rehabilitation.
Gross.
And they deserve that maximum penalty.
Absolutely.
You know, we're talking about, you know, most of the death penalty cases are not just somebody that killed somebody.
Ugh,
you know, it usually has some really aggravated circumstances to it. So, you know, they tortured them beforehand. You know, it was a child, you know, something like, you know what I mean? Like, it's something really aggravated and disgusting where, I'm sorry to say, but I'm not going to be shedding any tears when that person is no longer with us.
Right, yeah.
You know, they don't belong in the society. That's just my opinion.
Yes.
And another pro to having the death penalty is it's the most scrutinized sentence that you can have, meaning like once you're convicted of the crime and you're sentenced to death, right? There are more law firms, pro bono lawyers, foundations, and things like that to look over your case than any other sentence or crime.
Right.
And it gets scrutinized more than any other sentence or crime by far, in huge part, okay?
Right.
And there have been numerous people on death row who were then acquitted and released from prison who otherwise would not have been because nobody would have cared about their case that much.
True. I see what you
mean.
The
only reason that they were able to get to the bottom of it because, you know, for most of them, it was a strong case against them, which is why they were convicted and sentenced that way.
Yeah.
So it was a very damning case against them.
Absolutely.
Somebody had to go in there and scrutinize the hell out of it and really dig and, you know, really, really put in a lot of really hard work and investigative skills to uncover that this person was innocent. Yeah. And if they were just sentenced to life or 15 years or whatever, most times nobody would have dug that deep. Yeah. Nobody would have cared that much to go that deep to acquit that person with such a strong case against them.
That makes sense.
But because this person's life is on the line, there are numerous amounts of lawyers and foundations that take it upon themselves to make sure that they acquit the people that shouldn't be on death row.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, so I believe that that's a pro of the death sentence is the scrutiny behind it.
Yeah.
Once you get sentenced to death, there's people who give a shit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And will do their best to really dig into your case.
Make sure that it's really what should be done.
Right. Yeah, there's numerous people, and you can look it up. There's a lot of great documentaries about the death sentence from unbiased points of view. Mm-hmm. Journalists who go in there not trying to throw shade on the death penalty or promote it, just trying to
figure it out, kind of, information.
Yeah, basically, they're trying to develop an opinion on it by speaking to lawyers and inmates on death row and, you know, all that things.
Right.
And in those documentaries, there's always one or two people that they interview who used to be on death row who are now free people.
Oh, yeah.
Because somebody, you know, really cared about that case.
Yeah, they really figured it out.
And they figured it out.
That's good.
So I think that's a pro of the death penalty, too.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like I'm, like, kind of case by case about it. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
What do you mean?
Like, how I feel about somebody being sentenced that way.
So you're not against the death penalty.
No.
You're just selective on who you think should be sentenced to it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
as am I.
Yeah, obviously. I feel like most people are like that.
Right. Yeah, I don't believe it should be light. That sentence should never be taken lightly.
Absolutely not.
And I don't think anybody does.
Yeah, no.
You know what I mean? I think they take it very seriously, and especially
almost to the point of where people aren't even really getting that punishment.
Right. Well, especially in the state of California.
We don't actually do that, do we?
Right now, it's been on hold.
Yeah.
It's been on hold.
Right.
Right. So there's legal challenges and policymakers and district attorneys and judges and, you know, politicians and things like that who all are weighing in on it right now.
Yeah.
And so right now it's kind of up in the air in California.
I know a lot of people are getting their sentences changed to like
Right.
life in prison instead.
Right. But I can tell you, as somebody who worked in a state prison that had the death penalty,
Oh, yeah.
not in California,
Right.
I worked on death row,
Ooh.
and I was on the
sorry.
I was on the Special Operations Response Team, which is the team that's responsible for carrying out the executions.
Wow.
So I can tell you right now, from my own experience, that it is handled very seriously.
Okay.
And I'm talking down to the minute.
Right.
There's a policy regarding everything, and it needs to go a certain way. It
Oh,
needs to
yeah.
go right, because they take it very, very seriously. It's not taken lightly at any point in time.
You would think I didn't know you.
Why?
I don't know any of these things.
Oh. Well, I mean, it's not really Sunday brunch conversation,
True. How have you ever like witnessed it before?
No. So while I worked there was not an execution. There was people on death row. But their
Nobody got
execution
executed?
date did not come to pass while I worked there.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Still crazy. I know you worked at like a crazy prison, right?
Yeah, I worked at the Max prison. I started out in like the general population units,
Ugh.
which are like full of the foot soldiers and things like that. So those units usually have the most like fights and assaults and things like that, because those are the people carrying out the orders from the shot callers, right?
Okay.
And then after I worked there for a little while, I went on to work in the lockdown unit, basically, so segregation,
Okay.
where they're locked down 23 hours a day by themselves, single-celled.
Ooh, that sounds really horrible.
Yeah, and when they come out in full shackles, and they go to another, basically, cage for outdoor rec, single-celled
Whoa.
out there for 1 hour. And that's
intense.
well, these are really high-risk inmates, okay? These are the shot callers. These are people that have a history of violence against officers, or, deadly assaults against other inmates using weapons,
Oh, no.
So these are people that
What did they do to get in there?
all of a combination of any of those things.
No, but I mean like to get in jail.
Oh, who knows? So because it's a maximum security prison, most of them are very serious crimes. A lot of murderers, a lot of
Ugh.
rapists,
Gross.
a lot of gang members, things like
No.
that.
Okay.
But the people that end up in the lockdown unit are...
Do they stay there their whole sentencing?
No,
Or?
no, not necessarily. It depends on why they're in the lockdown unit in the first place.
Okay.
So, did they assault an officer? Did they stab an inmate?
Wow.
Did they smuggle in weapons? You know what I mean? Are
Okay.
they the leader of a gang in there that's causing a lot of problems?
Oh, no.
So depending on that circumstance, depends on how long they'll be in there.
Right.
And then once they're in there, they had a program that would basically wane them off of it.
Oh, okay.
So you follow all the rules and behave properly for this length of time. What we're going to do is we're going to let you're 1 hour out of your cell, not in shackles.
Ooh.
Okay? You do that
I would
for
be terrified.
you do that for a certain amount of time, we're going to let you out with one other inmate. Neither one of you in shackles for that 1 hour.
Oh my gosh.
You do that for a certain amount of time, we'll think about putting you back into the general population
Oh
unit.
my gosh, this is how
You
we
know what I
should
mean?
train children.
It kind
Just kidding,
of is.
sorry. I'm
It
joking.
kind of is. There's consequences and rewards dependent upon your behavior.
I need to get my kids separated and
Yeah.
then reintroduce them like that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You basically just take steps, small steps, and as long as they can go with the program and do what they're supposed to do and stay away from the activity they're not supposed to be doing,
Then they get to go back.
yeah, you know
Oh,
what
man.
I mean?
Did you get threatened a lot?
Every day.
Oh
Are
my
you kidding
gosh.
me? It was that was the worst job I've ever had in my life.
Ugh.
Was working as a corrections officer in the prison.
Oh my gosh.
The county jails were much easier.
Yeah, because they're not as violent of offenders.
Not,
or?
well, okay. In California, again, this is California specific. Usually, the county jail system was for people awaiting trial, or their sentence was 1 year or less.
Okay.
Okay, so
Right. So they're waiting.
Right.
To see where
However,
they're gonna go.
there was an assembly bill passed by the state of California some years ago because of overcrowding in the state prisons that basically turned county jails into mini county prisons.
Oh no.
So there's people
Okay.
in there with 10-year sentences
Oh wow.
who are there for very serious crimes, serving their entire sentence in county jail as opposed to going
Wow.
to the prison.
I know the prison system and everything's really.
Well, it was all due to overpopulation of the prison system.
Ugh.
So the state said, well, not our problem anymore. Now it's the county's problem.
Oh gosh.
So now they have to deal with it, right?
You know, I know this is gonna make me sound kind of like an airhead, but I didn't really know that each state had their own kind of different ways. I kind of thought prisons throughout the United States kind of are all the same and run by the same
Oh no. So there is
system.
So there is federal prison.
Right.
Okay,
so that's what I'm thinking of.
Yes. So federal prison is a uniform thing across the country because it's ran by the federal government.
Right.
Okay, and those are people that are charged with federal crimes, not state crimes.
Okay.
Okay, so a lot of times they call it club fed. You know, it's a lot of white collar crimes.
Oh,
you know, things like that. Those are another very frequent federal crime is bank robbery because banks are federally insured.
Makes
so
sense.
when you bank,
You're committing a federal crime.
you're committing a federal crime because that federal government is insuring that bank.
That makes sense.
So a lot of bank robbers and then like really high threat people like terrorists, things like that. That would be a federal. So like the Boston bomber, he's locked in a federal prison. He's locked in the Supermax in Colorado.
Oh.
Yeah. So
God, I hate that guy.
those would be some examples of people convicted of federal crimes.
Ugh.
So that would be uniform across the country no matter what state it's in because it's a federal facility.
Right. Okay.
But each state has their own state laws.
That makes sense.
So when you get convicted to state prison,
That's
well,
because
it's
you-
that state's
Makes sense.
say-so on how that prison is run
Right.
in accordance with the state's laws.
Right.
So they have to abide by the state's laws with how they run it.
Right.
But, you know, Illinois' laws
are different than
California,
right?
And just about every other state. There's a lot of similarities at the same time. You know, security is security.
Right.
But
Still
there's a lot of
different.
nuances and
Yeah.
differences, too. So
How many prisons do we have in California? Do you know?
I don't know off the top. Cody, could you Google that? Could you tell us how many state prisons are in California?
I would be curious.
I don't know how many, but I can tell you that it is a lot.
I always just think of like the top 5 maybe that they have here.
Oh no, there's a lot of just state prisons, not even including federal prisons or immigration detention centers or things like that.
Crazy.
Department of Corrections operates 35 adult prisons.
35 state
35.
prisons in California.
Wow. Okay.
35.
And
That's
that
just the
doesn't
state
That
prisons.
doesn't include any federal prisons
No.
in the state.
No.
Wow. Oh wow. And they're all overcrowded.
A lot of them, if I'm not mistaken, are Northern California or Central California.
Makes
so
sense. It's
like,
less populated
right. So like
in some places, you know.
right. I think our highest security prison would be Pelican Bay, and that's on the far northern tip of California, like right by Oregon.
Yeah.
It's in Crescent City.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, that's Pelican Bay, and that's where like all of our, you know, top tier shot caller gangsters are and stuff like that.
Oh, okay. All right, let's do a different question. Oh, hey, do you feel like the crime rate has been affected by the pandemic?
It's tough to tell, just because where I work now, the station I'm at now, is always busy.
It's like just a crazy.
It's a
crazy
high
place.
crime area regardless.
Right.
So it's kind of hard to tell for me.
Yeah.
Only because I'm always busy at that station.
And it's always crazy.
Yeah, we always have crazy amounts of calls and crazy calls.
Yeah.
At first, I thought that domestics would go up a lot because
Absolutely.
people are locked in the house with each other and things
I know.
like that.
I almost did.
Right.
Just kidding.
But, you know, as far as I can tell, there isn't a huge difference in domestics. It seems kind of the same.
Yeah.
You know, couples don't get along, they fight
Man.
and cause disturbances. You know what I mean?
True.
The only type of calls I've seen definitely go up since the pandemic would be relating to the pandemic. So people will call the cops for somebody not wearing a
no.
mask. And I have to go and
Okay.
explain to them, that's not against the law, and I don't do like I'm not the mask enforcer.
Yeah.
That's not what I do.
That's
You know,
that
and people
seems
are
like-
flabbergasted when I tell them there's nothing I can do about somebody not wearing a mask.
right.
And I'm like, you know, I don't know why you think that I would.
Right. What am I supposed to do? Go like arrest them?
Yeah, they're not breaking a law.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If you don't like that person's not wearing a mask, stay away from them.
Right.
You know what I mean? Go do your own thing.
Wow.
So, but other than that, I really haven't seen a crazy difference in crime.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. I kind of thought it would go up.
I did too. I
Yeah.
did. I thought for sure
I
the
wonder if
crime
I
rate's
could look up
definitely
that,
going
like,
up.
statistically, like in the United States. Just,
Yeah,
like, see.
I would be curious. Cody, let's do a Google search to see if the crime rates in the United States have gone up since the pandemic.
Okay.
Whether it's like crimes against persons or crimes against property or what.
Thanks, Cody.
You're the man.
That's my husband.
I know it.
Okay. Let's see here. I had some other ones. Oh, okay. I have a question.
Okay.
Is there any like famous or like major cases that have always interested you that's like more like a well-known case, you know what I mean?
Definite. So there was this documentary on Netflix called Evil Genius.
Oh my gosh, I haven't watched it. I know,
Oh, you gotta
totally
watch
haven't.
it. I'm
I
telling
was
you.
supposed to watch it before this.
That was very intriguing to me.
I really want to watch it. Who was it about?
The summary, it's been a long. I saw it when it first came out, so it's been a long time.
Okay.
So I might screw up some of the details.
All right,
Just FYI.
that's
but
fine.
as I remember it,
We're not. I'm not gonna fact check you.
okay,
People might,
that's okay.
if anybody's listening.
Hey, by all means. As I remember it, basically, a pizza delivery driver was, when he dropped off the pizza at this house, the people there snatched him up. They put this basically like lock, this collar around his neck that was a bomb.
Oh my gosh.
And they sent him to go to a bank with a note that said, basically, like, give me all your money or
I've
this
heard of
person
this.
is going
I've
to
heard
have
of
their head
this.
blown off by this
Okay.
bomb.
I've heard of this.
Right?
one.
So he goes to the bank.
Man,
The
I
shirt
remember
is
the
kind of
guy's
pulled
name.
up over the collar. I mean, you can clearly see that dude's got something going on around his
Yeah,
neck.
and he was like really like in distress, right?
No, so this is what makes it
Maybe I'm thinking of a
interesting
different
is he
thing.
was pretty much calm and cool.
Oh yeah, okay.
Like
so I'm
he
thinking of a
wasn't
different
bothered by it.
thing. Okay.
You know what I mean? So that's what intrigued me
I hope I
right
didn't
away
die.
was they were like, it was weird. This guy wasn't acting like he had a bomb strapped to his neck.
All right, I'm thinking of a different one.
So he goes in there, he hands him the note, they give him the money, they call the cops stop him, and they don't know what the hell to do because I mean,
He has a bomb around
yeah,
his
you
neck.
don't really train. This is your suspect from a bank robbery, but he has a bomb on his neck.
Gosh.
What do you do?
Do you call it EOD?
Well, yeah, so you would call like the bombs and arson guys and stuff like that, but they're not going to get there right away.
It's not called.
You know what I mean? They're either going to get out of bed or they're going to get away from training or whatever else they're doing. They got to suit up, get all their equipment ready, get briefed about what's going on, where it's at, load everything up, get there.
Oh,
You know what I mean? So
man.
this is not a quick thing. People are always like, "Oh, call the bomb squad." Yeah, and then what? You're
Okay.
gonna have to wait for them.
Right,
You know what I
and
mean?
the people who put it on him probably know now.
Right. So that was another thing is that it appeared that they had some way they're following or watching what he's doing.
Oh.
Okay.
Okay.
And they made basically like a scavenger hunt for him to be like, you have to go to this point to get a key, and then go to this point to get like a combination or something like that to basically
if it was like
unlock.
a video game, it would be fun, but it's not.
Yeah, not this case,
This
but
is not. This is horrible.
so he had to go to several different points to be able to gain access to get the bomb off his neck. Okay. Never made it to, I don't think, any of them before the cops stopped him, and now they're in this standoff in the middle of the street, and he's sitting on the ground with the thing around his neck, and he's telling them, hey, this thing's going to go off. It's going to go off.
Does it
and-
go off?
Yeah, bam, it goes off, right?
Oh God.
And then the case takes, pretty interesting turns as far as leads for suspects go. They look at the people who live there.
Oh my God. Did they find the person?
Well, that's kind of, it kind of
Oh,
leaves it up in
man.
the air at the, I don't want to spoil it.
I don't. I want to watch it really bad.
I don't really want to spoil it. I mean, I can tell you this. At the end of the documentary, it gives you a really good idea of who probably did it.
Oh my God.
But the person or persons
They're still out there?
are not still out there.
Oh, thank God.
So even if,
Like, how am I going to sleep tonight?
right, so it's not like they could convict him of the crime
Oh my goodness.
even if they could prove it. But at the end of the documentary, you're like, yeah, that person did it for sure. But
I got to watch
what
it.
kind of leaves it up in the air is, because it's more than one person, right?
Right.
What's up in the air at the end is, well, which person was responsible for this part of it? You know what I mean? Like, you're like,
Okay.
they were responsible for different things here, and
But
I
you don't
wonder
know
which
who
one was the
was-
mastermind. You know what I mean?
Oh, that poor
So
guy.
that- For me, that was a really interesting.
Did anybody else get injured other than
I
the
don't
man
think so.
Okay. Because
but
I, mean,
I
if
could
the
be wrong on
police
that.
were near him.
Right, I could be
Oh,
wrong on that,
sounds
but
like
I don't
such a
think anybody
horrific
else got.
scene, though. I mean.
Oh yeah, and it was out in the middle of the street, like in a city. You know what I mean? Cody, did you find that out?
I do have those.
What do you
Ooh, I
got?
want to know.
So the way that 5-year case study.
It's okay. I'll repeat it.
5-year case study. We're looking at crime rates that did drop substantially per capita in 2020.
Mm-hmm.
At the beginning of the stay-at-home orders.
So they dropped at the beginning?
They dropped to around about a level of, let's say, about 14 and a half incidents per 10,000 cases.
Okay.
Oh, wow. Okay.
About June 15th or so of 2020 is when you see them rise back up to about right around what the high was for that 5-year period, but then it's also the death of George Floyd.
Okay, and then
That is what
is that
brought
the
crime levels back.
that's the latest data that we got.
So I would say that it's
And
probably
then it kinda
not because of the
tapered back off.
pandemic.
So statistically, crime rates are per capita are lower in the
Since the pandemic, it lowered.
Okay, so initially when the pandemic started, he's saying that there was a crime drop.
Right.
Okay, and then it kind of came back up to about the average level about a year later.
About a half a month period.
Okay.
And then it kind of tapered back down to where it's still below average.
It's still below, and then it tapered down to where it's below average now.
Yeah, so it's
Wow.
trending back up, but still below.
Wonder if it's just because people are inside.
Okay. Well, see, so I guess I was right. I was like, I haven't seen a noticeable uptick in crime.
I'm actually surprised that it went down.
So yeah, I mean, I didn't know that stat, but just
That's crazy.
being out there on patrol, I was like, yeah, I don't feel the difference.
Right.
You know.
Oh man,
So-
I'm actually shocked.
I was curious to see if I was just delusional and I'm just used to high crime or not, or what. So
Well, I mean, you are because of the area that you're in, probably. Speaking of, would you ever want to work in a specific place if you could? Is there like a dream location?
as a cop,
Yes.
okay, so where I'm at,
Yeah, you like
I
it?
love my department. I love everything about it.
Man, it sounds like insane.
I would never work for another department, but let's just say for hypothetical purposes that I had to work somewhere else. I thought about this for a little bit, and
Yeah?
I would say if I had to pick one place that I would move to be a cop, other than where I'm at now, it would be Florida.
Oh my gosh, yes!
So here's
Oh!
a couple reasons
That
why,
sounds
right?
like it would be so fun.
For one, the climate.
Ugh.
I'm a warm weather guy. Humidity doesn't bother me.
Yeah, hurricanes.
I dig beaches and things like that. You know, I dig the good weather.
Have you been to Florida?
No,
Me neither.
I've been to almost every state in the country. Florida is one of the ones I have not been to.
We lived in Tennessee, and everybody went to Florida all
Yeah.
the time, and we never went.
Right. And
Sorry.
no, I gotcha.
I've never wanted to go.
But I would definitely, aside from the
Sorry, Florida.
climate and all of those things, you know, cost of living is cheaper than California, things like that. I mean,
Plus, they
depending
got a
where you
lot
go,
of-
obviously.
They got a lot of fun people over there. It
And
seems
that
like.
would be my second reason is all the Florida man stories that you hear. I'm
love
like, are
those.
you
They're
kidding me?
So funny.
Do you know the type of stories I would have if I worked Florida man cases every
Ah,
day?
Yeah, we'd be like calling you every day, like, hey,
Yeah.
what happened today?
That's what I mean. So like the climate and, you know, the cost of living and things like that, and just the state itself seems like a cool place to be. And it seems like they got a lot of people that are really out there.
That sounds like it would be fun and weird,
Right.
and I don't think I would want to go.
Well, that's what I enjoy about the job is the weird ones where I'm like, what?
I know, right?
The ones that shock me even after 8 years. That's the one thing that I could tell you without a doubt is even the dudes who've been doing it for 20 plus years will still have days where they come across
They're
something
like, what the?
where they're like, what the fuck is this? You know what I mean? Like it's
I feel like I would never recover from some things you tell me. I'm like, I would sit there for hours going, why though?
it's one
I
of
just
those
wouldn't be able
things.
to move on.
It's just no matter how long you've been doing this job, I can guarantee you one thing, it's that you haven't seen it all.
Oh man.
You haven't seen it all yet,
Ugh.
you know?
Oh my
There's
goodness.
always something out there that'll shock even the most seasoned cop, man.
Oh gosh, that's funny though.
It's 100% true. I can guarantee that.
I don't know why I thought you would just pick like a different place in California. I didn't even think about it like that. Like,
No,
was just
if I
saying.
was going to be a cop somewhere else, I would not choose California.
Yeah.
No.
Makes sense.
I will burst y'all's bubble on my previous crime stat.
What do you got?
Homicide rates did jump 31% in the state of California
Whoa!
During what time period?
from 2019. 2019 to 2020.
How much?
2019 to 2020 or 2022?
2019 to 2020, 31% increase in the state of California.
Okay, so we had an uptick in homicides, a 31% increase in homicides in the state of California during the pandemic.
What the crap, people?
Which
Stop
makes sense,
killing
you know.
each other.
Well, I mean, it makes sense that the up crime would be crimes against people,
Ugh.
right? Because a lot of crimes against property are crimes of opportunity, meaning, you know, people aren't home.
True.
It's got an unlocked door. I can just walk in and go take stuff, and chances are I'll be fine. But if it's a pandemic where you know people are locked down inside their homes, you're probably going to be less likely to go inside people's homes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Whereas if you're locked down with people, people can get on your nerves very quickly, so crimes against people probably go up.
I wonder, I mean, not to make it political, if it was kind of the political climate as well, because I know in the last
Well,
few
I'm sure it
years,
didn't help.
it's been really contentious.
Right, yeah.
Around, you know.
Very divisive,
people,
yeah.
Yeah, people, like, having that kind of
Well, yeah, I think people have
strong.
definitely lost the ability to be civil with others that they disagree with.
Yeah, the opinion, people aren't
Right,
allowed to have other
Right.
opinions.
I just remember when I was a kid, it was okay to disagree with people.
Yeah, I think it's strange.
And you didn't even, you know, most disagreements didn't end in people screaming or fighting each other. Most of them were like, okay, let's agree to disagree. We're not getting anywhere on this. You know, I disagree with you, you disagree with me, and it is what it is. You know, that's usually how those resolved. I mean, with the exception to the rule, you know, but nowadays it seems the exception to the rule is people civilly disagreeing, is people agreeing to disagree.
Yeah, it's true. You're right. It's like people are more often to not agree to disagree lately.
Yeah, people are really quick to just lose their shit, you know,
Yeah.
and especially when it comes to the world of law enforcement.
Yeah.
You know, that's
I know it's
probably the thing that I don't like about this job
yeah,
is dealing with the political climates of it.
obviously. I mean, there's always going to be bad cops.
Well, of course, there's going to be bad people.
Yeah, there's always just but it's just one of those jobs where, you know,
I can tell you this.
one bad person can ruin it for everybody.
Absolutely, and that's exactly what it is. So, you know, you never see the insane amount of potential stories of the good things that, you know, people in law enforcement do every day.
Yeah.
You know, the people they save, the people they help, the good deeds that they do. These are not newsworthy events, okay? But I promise you they happen every day.
I bet.
And they happen in a ridiculous amount of numbers, okay?
Right.
The things that are newsworthy is when somebody messes up.
Yes.
And especially within the last few years where it's a hot topic.
It's very hot.
So because it's a hot topic, it's instantly newsworthy, even if the facts are not all there yet.
Yeah.
So a lot of things may look really bad on camera, but until you know the entire circumstance of that situation and what happened, it could not match what you're seeing. It's totally possible. It's more times than not probable.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that don't translate well on camera.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And I'm not saying that's all of them. You know what I mean?
No.
Obviously, there's incidents where people are doing the wrong thing.
Absolutely.
But a lot of times people are really, really fast to jump on a video clip that they don't like the way it looks. Okay, so
Yeah.
there's actually, I wish I could remember the name of the page. There's actually a really good social media page where it's basically a bank of video clips that were put on the news that were edited to fit a narrative. And then they
Yeah.
show you the comparison of what the news posted, and then they show you the full clip. And it's so night and day.
Yeah.
It's so night and day. People are completely shocked
Wow.
when they see the comparison. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like, there's one video clip that the news posted where you see a really large woman, and not just like fat. I mean, just large, tall, big, a big woman. Okay?
Yeah. Yeah.
And she's basically like face to face with a cop in the middle of the street, and he takes out his baton and he gives her a strike like in the thigh portion area and then in the arm, and that's the end of the video, right? Everybody freaked out. They're like, what the hell, dude? You just cracked this woman twice with your baton. He wasn't doing anything. Well, guess what? That video clip was edited. So when they showed the entire video clip, there's about 45 seconds before that where she's wailing on this cop. I mean, kicking, punching, scratching, you name it. She's trying to kick the shit out of this cop, and not lightly.
Yeah.
I'm saying, like, this cop definitely suffered injuries from what she did to him, okay? And eventually, what did he do? He
fought back.
He fought back.
Yeah.
Well, that's the portion that they showed everybody.
Just that part.
Right.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things like that where...
It's like perception.
Right. Perception is king, for sure. In any avenue, not just law enforcement and everything. You know what I mean? And especially with how news is today. So I think as far as... Because, okay, when we were kids, newspapers were still a thing.
Yeah, I never read them.
Right. I'm not saying you read them, but you knew that was a thing. Like, people got newspapers delivered.
Yeah,
they turned on the Channel 5 news at 7. You know what I mean? That's how people got their news, okay? Well, that's gone away now.
Oh, yeah.
Newspapers don't get delivered anymore for the most part. That's a dying industry, okay?
It really is.
So what did that translate to? It translated to online. So, like, the New York Times now, their main avenue to get their product to people is through online news, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Not through the physical paper.
Yeah.
Okay. So how do you to generate money as an online newspaper? You have to have people that read it.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
You have to say, "Hey, look how many people read our newspaper online." Well, what's the best way for online news to get someone to click on a story?
Yeah.
To have an outrageous headline or picture or
yeah,
you understand what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
It's what most people call clickbait.
Yeah.
Right? So clickbait is a way for these newspapers and these online, publications to basically get paid to keep pushing their product. Like there's numerous writers who have been told by editors and publishers and things like that, we're going to tweak this to get people to click on it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And even the writer of that story will be like, well, that doesn't really fit the story I just wrote. And they're like, we don't really give a shit.
With newspaper. They probably did.
Probably.
Yeah.
I would say so, but I don't think it was to the extent that you're seeing online.
I mean, the internet's insane.
Right, because all you need to do is to get somebody to on that story. Even if they're not satisfied with what they were fed in the headline, they still clicked on it. You still got that view.
Yeah, I mean, you could
to continue selling
stories of the same thing, and they'd all be different.
Right, but when you had to sell physical newspapers, you had to get a return customer. You had to get that person to subscribe to your newspaper to get it delivered every week, right?
True, yeah.
In order to do that, they had to be satisfied with the story matching the headlines. They didn't want to be duped, and if they were, they're like, I'm not getting this newspaper anymore.
Yeah.
Whereas online, it's just like, hey, we'll take anybody that clicks on it. We don't need you to subscribe. We need you to click.
The internet's a scary place.
Right? So, I don't know. That's just my opinion. I could be talking out of my ass there, but
I don't know. I don't like the internet or the news.
At all?
Sometimes I try to want to be uneducated about everything.
Ignorance is bliss.
I hate looking at it all.
Yeah, I mean, the internet's definitely a crazy place. It's crazier to think about that I was around at the start of the internet.
Yeah.
And not just around, I wasn't 2 or 3, you know what I mean? I was a developed human being without internet.
I don't remember.
I definitely do. I remember when AOL came out with dial-up internet and all that.
At Grandma's house.
That was so crazy to everybody, you know what I mean? That it was like, oh my God, you mean I can send mail electronically through a computer, or I can chat with somebody in a chat room? This is insane.
At Grandma's house, you'd have to ask her if you could do it because you can't have the phone would be off the hook if you're using the internet.
Yeah. So
you'd be like, Grandma, can I use the internet? And she's like, no, I'm expecting a call, so you can't do it.
Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah, no, that was a real thing. So there initially it was you had to share the phone line, and then they came out with the new technology, which was we can install 2 lines, so you can have a phone and dial-up internet, and people lost their minds over that. And now, Jesus,
man, I wonder if the internet increased crime rates.
I don't think the internet increased crime rates.
Just made it easier for people?
Probably.
Yeah.
Probably. Or at least discoverable.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There was probably a lot of crimes that happened before the internet that weren't as easy to track down.
Yeah.
And since...
But, people meet each other on the internet, and then they just, you don't know who you're meeting. And
well, that was the whole...
So much, deceit and...
Right. That was the whole Dateline... NBC To Catch a Predator series that spawned because of the internet, right? So before then, I don't know. I was obviously too young and not a cop at the time. I was a kid, but I don't know how child predators went about luring, underage people. But I know once the internet happened,
it made it so much easier.
It was ridiculous that, you know, they made an entire show about it that lasted for how many seasons?
Yeah, I
how many
remember that show.
episodes?
That
You know what I
was-
mean?
That was a crazy show.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
And I think that's a good example of it's not like there weren't child predators before the internet,
Yeah.
but once the internet came out, that became a huge avenue for them to use
Yeah.
to pursue that criminal activity.
Uh-huh.
You know what I mean?
Okay. Well, I think we're almost out of time, right?
No, I don't
You
think so.
want to do like some weird fact questions, or you got anything you specifically want to
What
talk
do you got?
about?
What do you got?
Okay, well, I didn't know this, and this was a really disturbing thing that I found out.
Okay.
I found out that, okay, well, this was according to like 4 years ago, so I don't know if it's like how it is now, but there's actually like 20 states in the United States that don't have a law against necrophilia.
Really?
Did you know that? I mean, I'm sure that they get charged with something else.
Oh, yeah.
Like, if
I would
they
imagine
do,
so.
But, like, I wonder, I mean, is it illegal to, like, I don't know. I'm going to sound really dumb. But is it, like, illegal to dig up a dead person just to have sex with them? Because that's disgusting.
Yes. Yes, absolutely.
But, like, why? Wouldn't that, well, it says that there's no law against it.
Well, in what states?
Well, I didn't write them all down because
I can tell you California is not one of them.
I doubt it.
Yeah.
But, you know, Florida probably is. Sorry,
Damn, that's
Florida.
a dig on Florida.
I know, I'm sorry, Florida. But I'm just saying, I was, like, so shocked. There was, like, a bunch of different ones. And it was, like, you know, there's, like, a loophole that they get charged with, like, you know.
Right, right.
I don't remember what they call it.
Probably like abuse of a corpse.
Yeah, those
things
kinds
like
of
that.
things.
Yeah.
But I'm like, that is so strange. It should just be like, hey, don't do that.
Yeah,
like,
don't have
written
sex with dead
down,
people.
right?
Like that.
Like,
That should be a given.
It's just not right. So strange.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
I guess that is shocking.
I was like, I don't know. Maybe it's just me. And I know it's like probably a weird topic to talk about, but I just thought nobody did that.
Oh no, people definitely do it.
Ugh.
Uh,
I know. That's the thing. It's hard for me to like think about people doing the things.
I
that
would hope
people
it's hard for you to
do.
think about that. Yeah.
Yeah. When I think about people murdering people, it's like even you're like, oh, I snapped. I'm like, I just don't get it.
Yeah. I would be concerned if it was easy for you to think about.
Right? I'm like, I've never even punched a person in the face.
Really?
Yeah, really. Like,
Oh,
I
okay.
can't even imagine being like, yeah, I'm gonna kill you now because you made me mad.
Oh, well,
Maybe I should try punching someone first.
No, don't try that.
No?
No.
Really? It's kind of
No.
like a lifelong goal of mine.
No, it shouldn't be.
Why?
Uh,
What if they deserve it?
even then,
Don't.
it's not worth it.
What if they punch me first?
Well, defend yourself by all means,
Okay.
but you know,
Well-
other than that, it's not worth it.
Yeah.
It's not.
I know. I'm probably gonna break my hand because I'll do it wrong.
Yeah, it's a good. I mean, you've probably never even hit like a heavy bag or anything, right?
I have at the gym.
Oh, okay. So you know how to throw a punch, basically.
I mean, I would probably still do it wrong.
Okay, fair enough.
I mean, I
To be fair, I think most people would do it wrong,
think everybody, probably
especially
does.
bare knuckle, because it's vastly different than when you have gloves and you're hitting a bag and things like that. When you have to punch someone with just your bare fist to, you know, whatever part of their body, it's a lot different.
Yeah. Okay. Well.
I think we're about out
We're
of
out?
time.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think this was a good episode, a good way to kick off the podcast.
Yeah.
You know, if you guys enjoyed it, we're definitely going to be dropping this every other Monday, I believe.
Every other Monday.
Every other Monday. Make
Okay.
sure you visit our website, onscenepodcast.com.
Oh yeah, please like submit questions and stuff.
Yes. So if you have any questions, comments, anything like that maybe you want to see on the podcast, you can always email us at onscenepodcast@gmail.com, and we'll go through those. And I think next episode we're going to go over some cases.
Yeah, I think so. I
Yeah?
want to do like maybe some unsolved ones.
Okay, yeah. Let's see what that
Just
brings
kind
up.
of see like your perspective of like, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, definitely. I think we should definitely dive into that. So, everybody, for listening, make sure you tune in for the next episode.
Yep.
See you later.
All right. Bye.
Put your hands on the vehicle.